Flash. Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, October 21st board meeting of the Hot Springs Board of Directors. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Reverend Perigo, Brant Perigo, and will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand me.
Father God, thank you for everyone in this room tonight. We know you care about our city. You care about everything that's going on. Thank you for the wisdom, the people you've put in this room to make decisions. God, to just have this city be an awesome city that blesses people, that thrives and flourishes. I pray a blessing on each person in this room tonight, God, that your grace would be over each one of us and that your love would be felt and known, and that the jobs that we're doing, God, are all under your leadership, your guidance. We need your help. We just pray, God, that this city continually gets better and better, and that people will know there's something special about Hot Springs. Bless the discussions tonight. Bless the decisions. I pray for wisdom and creativity of what will continually move our city forward. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. I hereby call this meeting to order. The first order of business is a roll call of the Board of Directors. Please call the roll.
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
McCabe.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Carney.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any additions, corrections, modifications, or deletions to the agenda?
Yeah, Assistant Mayor, I'd like to, on item 12, I'd like to separate those into two action items, one relating to the water treatment plant improvements and one for the quantity of water, and the other relating to the fluoridation.
Second.
Is the motion understood? Everybody? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that they be approved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, the next item on the agenda is to consider the approval of the minutes of the board meeting of October 7th. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for their approval as written.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this time, are there any guests to be recognized? Anybody have any guests here tonight? Okay, moving right along, we'll hear our city manager's report. Mr. Watkins.
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As promised, I'm going to provide an update of the implementation of our Thermal Basin Fire District plan. And Fire Department was very busy in the month of October, meeting with various building owners trying to get compliance. And I'm pleased to announce that we have had good examples of compliance. We've got several buildings that have been abandoned for a long time on Olive. 321 and 323 Olive are going to be demolished. They've been bought by the West Central Planning and Development District. We have received fire protection means of egress and or building plans from the owners of 236 Central, which is the Medical Arts Building, 239 Central, which is the Wade Building, 264 Central, which is the Dugan Stewart Building, 338 Central, which is the Thompson Building, 350 Central, which is the Savoy Hotel, 420 Central, which is Bare Necessities, and 422 Central, which is a former hotel property. 719 Central, which is the Marquette Hotel, now Bel Arti. 823 Central is a radio station, former hotel. 819 Central is the former offices of the Documentary Film Festival. We have partial plans from 201 Central, which is the Howe Hotel, 610 Central, which was the Shaw Hotel, and 133 Chapel, which are the Key West apartments in progress, or in process. Corrections are being undertaken. We have received no fire or means of egress plans. When I say we, these are plans submitted to the fire chief, not the city attorney. That would be 101 Park Avenue, Majestic Complex, and I'll come back to that one. 1100 Park Avenue, the Mountaineer Restorium, 2 structures, 226 Prospect, the Darch and Knickerbocker Hotels, and 723 Central, the Citizens Bank building. I was told that Mr. Girolamo would not be here, so I was going to postpone that until he could come, and so we're not prepared to go into detail about his properties, which are in the ones I just mentioned. However, I did want to take advantage of having this airtime to go over some updates on the Majestic Hotel. Today, Brian Albright, myself, Lance Spicer, Bill Burrow, Senator Bill Sample, Representative John Vines met with representatives of ADEQ in Little Rock. There's been some things swirling around that I wanted to clarify. Today, a letter went out from ADEQ to the owner that he has 14 days to begin demolition or removal of the rubble, or there will be some type of, I guess you'd say, a tougher approach. Just so everybody knows, the property owner bought that building in 2012, and met with city officials at that time regarding the Majestic, committed to cordoning off openings in the building. We were having trouble at that time with vagrants, drug dealings occurring in the building. He promised us he would comply, never did, until finally was ordered to by the court, which occurred about a week before the Majestic fire. Subsequent to the fire, we've had a lot of conversations with attorneys and would-be contractors. We've had nothing positive, affirmative come out of that. Back in September, we were going to bring to this board proposed condemnation actions on the Red Brick Building and possibly Lanai Towers. And we held off that because of a commitment by the owner that he would be filing an insurance claim to get funds for removing the yellow brick rubble, and would pursue closing up and closing the building, the red brick building for sure, from the same kind of problems we had with the Majestic, which were people gaining entry and setting fires and doing basically nefarious things. That was back in September, had a commitment. As of today, I've had no contact, made commitments to ADEQ, no commitments, no action. So, I want everybody to be clear that Mr. Hassenfluh, as a property owner, has certain rights under state law. Those have been followed to a T. Now we're dealing with what happens when an owner doesn't do anything, and that was the subject of today's meeting. What I wanted to show up on the board are some of the conditions that exist today within the red brick building. Same thing that happened to the Majestic. So we're going to be, in 2 weeks, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the public, the city will be meeting with ADEQ to talk about a plan of action, because that rubble cannot continue sitting there. It creates a negative image when you drive into Hot Springs. We have the Math and Science School. We have one of our best restaurants. We have a residential area that's making a comeback, and the condition in that building is a hindrance. We've had a lot of talk about property rights. Property rights are great. Property owners have responsibilities too, and with ADEQ and EPA and the city board and the community, our intention is to hold the property owner accountable. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. Or Brian?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up with respect to the adjacent buildings, the Lanai Towers and the Red Brick Building. Bart Jones was prepared to bring to you a condemnation request on those two buildings some time back. And as Mr. Watkins indicated, we held off on that because we had communications, negotiations, talked about a list of things that needed to be performed, a performance bond that would come forward to ensure that those things did happen. That has not happened as well. So your next meeting, as I'm sure will be announced later, there's not going to be a meeting on Election Day. Your next meeting is slated for November the 18th. It was anticipated that those would come to you on November the 18th. The attorney for Mr. Hassenflue has asked if that could be postponed. I'm not inclined to want to postpone it. However, I did want to give him the courtesy of knowing whether it would or would not be on the 18th. So I would like to just get, a show of hands from the board this evening. Is there any interest in delaying it beyond November the 18th? Okay, I'll take it that there's not.
Can we use their actions? They have 14 days within which to start the removal of the debris on a yellow building, right?
Yes.
And I understand that that's a separate project, but it's the same owner.
Yes.
And would be somewhat of a demonstration that they're willing to comply.
I would hope that it would be some indication of good faith on their part to follow through with the promises that have been made, yes.
Okay.
Director Garcia?
As the other property owners, once a condemnation's made, if they put forth an effort within that 30-day period, usually 30 to 45 days, then they honor that they're taking care of it. They would still have that option, right?
They would be treated just like any other
Everybody
property.
else.
Yes, yes.
I forgot about that.
So that would give them, that would be within that time frame and give them that ability to do that.
Council. Just to keep everybody up to speed, I understand that it's supposed to be sold at auction potentially on November 12th. How does that impact anything else that's going on?
It has been slated for an online auction along with multiple other properties across the United States, assuming that a bona fide purchaser comes forward and purchases the property. All of the requirements regarding condemnation, ADEQ, all of those still exist.
Follow to the new owner then?
Well, ADEQ actually will continue to pursue Mr. Hassenflue for a remedial action on the existing rubble. But certainly anyone who takes possession as is.
Okay. Thank you.
And I might note that the city, we've had no calls from any potential bidder. We've had no calls from any potential contractor, no calls from any potential hauler. We've had no contact on even the proposed auction.
I have had calls from citizens who want to know when we're going to take some action. So
Yeah, I
I
have
appreciate the
too.
update.
And I will also note that our two representatives, Senator Sample and Representative Vines, are absolutely on top of this and agree with every position that we talked about taking.
Right.
Because they see that nothing is getting done. They get the same calls you do. The only other thing, Mayor Pro Tem, real quick, as Brian alluded to, we have elections on the 4th. Your next meeting, regular meeting, will not be until the 18th. And however, we will have an agenda meeting on Monday, November 10th. And the reason for that is that Veterans Day is observed, as you know,
Yeah.
on November 11th. So we'll be moving that agenda review back to the 10th.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions of the city manager? Okay, hearing none. Are there any board of directors announcements regarding upcoming events?
I have one. I was asked to announce that there is going to be the Park Avenue Community Association is presenting an historic Park Avenue walking tour this Saturday. It begins and ends at Park Haven Community Garden at 655 Park Avenue. Registration begins at 1. The tour starts at 2 o'clock. They're suggesting a donation of $10. Quote, put on your walking shoes and step back in time as you hear and see some amazing stories about historic Park Avenue. There have been 2 ladies that have been interviewed at length, oral interviews about some of the history, and one has lived in the area most of her 92 years, and the other has lived in the neighborhood 67 years. And they're going to one of those some of those really beautiful houses on Magnolia, I think a house or 2 on Kearney, and so it'll be a nice time if it's good weather, hopefully, and you might enjoy that. Thank you.
Director Davidson, I just want to compliment you and the community in District 1 that is really engaged. I am really pleased to see the number of people from Whittington Valley Association, Park Avenue, really get engaged in the community, and it's beginning to show. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
And some of us are also involved with Gateway, too.
Right. Who would that be? Director Jones?
Thank you. On this weekend, Gateway will have a carnival, a Halloween carnival. Well, not Halloween. It's treat or trunk, isn't it? Now, and we're getting blamed for that because of the trick or treat word that we used to use. But anyway, it's going to be this Saturday. We're going to have fun and games, and the kids get to play the policeman or the fireman out in the street, basketball. And with that, the Eureka Baptist Church is still having the community outreach deal. We'll be at the Friendship Cemetery, we'll be at Langston School and Oaklawn School. And anyone in the city that would like to volunteer, please come out and do your community service for that day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Jones. Becca?
Thank you. I'd like to announce in my district, District 3, we're going to be holding a town hall meeting for the residents, particularly of Baber and Phillips Street, this coming Thursday, the 23rd. We're going to discuss community safety and code compliance issues, answer a lot of questions. Right. We'll have people here from city staff, the city manager, representatives from planning, the police, engineering, stormwater departments. So anyone who's watching who would be interested in that, if you're in that area, please come and ask questions. They're going to be held here, 6 o'clock on the 23rd in this room, City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Clark. Anybody else?
Yeah, the Hot Springs Metro Partnership has been putting on a program this year and planning on next year's program where they do a trip to another community to look at best practices for downtown revitalization. 2015, they're planning on visiting Asheville, North Carolina, and see how they progress in their downtown revitalization and what are the how-to to accomplish that. 2 weekends ago, I was able to participate in a similar style trip to Saratoga Springs, New York, where we met with a lot of individuals there in leadership positions within that community. I was one of about 12 individuals from Hot Springs that went on that trip, and Saratoga Springs has really done a masterful job in creating a downtown that essentially never sleeps. They have the normal activity that you would see in the downtown area. They certainly have a number of restaurants and various other eateries. But their upstairs of their downtown establishments are either professional offices or condominiums and apartments. And They've really focused heavily on parking to ensure that they have plenty of parking for both the residents and those who are coming downtown for business purposes. And they were able to attract all aspects of it, all the necessities that you would need in a neighborhood. They have a grocery store, movie theater, and yet when you drive downtown, you don't necessarily see those. They're all blended in to the architecture of the community. The facade is everything's, you know, of that era, of the historic era. And they have laundry cleaners there, and when they went back and said, what do we want as our vision of downtown, it appears that they did not miss much of anything. And so as one of the major developers of downtown said, these parking garages have just been really have been real significant because the residents leave for work. Some work in the downtown area, many drive to work, and the parking garages empty out. Then the shop owners come in, fill up the parking garages. The shoppers come in, fill up the parking garages, and a lot of the shops do close at 5, but the restaurants in that stay open. And then the employees leave. The residents come back to downtown, and one of the major developers said, we went to his office. He said, this is my office. I'm on 4th floor, and I can see the 5-story parking garage across the street. And I can tell what time of day it is without looking at my watch because I can see which direction the traffic's flowing on the parking lot. And so, you know, when you see those things of how other communities do it, you can take a nugget or two and say, this is what Hot Springs could look like, you know, in 3, 5, 10 years. If, you know, moving the direction we're moving. You know, I've had a number of people tell me, and my wife and I are one, that would look to a downtown living opportunity if one was available. I've had other people who have businesses downtown indicate the same. So, you know, I know it's a long road, but, you know, we can start with a step and get to the finish line. So,
Do you know how long they've been working on that plan?
well, their whole process started in the 60s and the 70s. So they still have a few properties left to deal with. But when you go down there, it's very nice. So I'm sure Asheville will be equally as nice. And in the years to come, they'll come to our community and they'll be impressed with what we've done.
Great.
So our community just needs to take heart one step at a time.
Right, and they said you just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. Director Garcia, did you have one? Okay.
Oh, I just thought of something. When Patrilla moved, she said she was going to send me pictures. I never did get them, but she sold her car once they got to downtown Pasadena where they live. And she said she didn't even need a car. They live downtown. They walk wherever they go, to the grocery store. They go, you know, she's in this music stuff. There's a lot of music, different spots in this Pasadena community. She says sometimes they get the bus and go to a different church just to visit. But the church is even down there where they go, where they live. It sounds like a dream, Pat, but it is real. People are living that way. And it just sounds so nice. I can just see Hot Springs in my 50-year tenure being that way. Don't you, Mayor?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
What am I going to do, say no? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine in nature for the city and and generally do not have any discussion, and they're adopted as one item. So I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I so move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Next item is new business. And the new business items, the public is invited to participate in discussions. There's a 3-minute time limit on each of their discussions, and we would ask that your comments be restricted to the issue at hand. We had a change in the agenda, so the first item will be read by council. Consider Resolution 14200.
Mayor, with your permission, I'm going to label this as Resolution R14200A in light of the motion that was made by Director McCabe, and read it in its entirety since it is somewhat different. A resolution awarding a bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc. for Washita Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project. Whereas competitive bids for certain goods and services have been received and evaluated in accordance with Ordinance Number 5387, and that whereas city staff has evaluated all bids received and recommends award of the bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc., now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to award a bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc. for Washita Water Treatment Plant Improvements Project in the amount of $2,547,700, provided further the city manager is authorized to act on behalf of the city in administration of the awarded bid. Section 2, funding will be provided through the 2014 water bond funds. That concludes the reading. You can now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Could I have a motion to
I
adopt?
so move.
Second.
Could I ask a clarifying question on what you read? In separating out the portion for the fluoridation, because that portion was 250, was that the 250,000? Is any portion of the bond and insurance required to be allocated to that?
No, it was itemized. If you look on your
Okay.
page 94 of your packet, there were 6 items that were identified. Item 2 was the fluoridation system of $250,000. Our grant from Delta Dental was not to exceed $347,880. So that would be the amount that you will consider separately after this item is placed up for a vote for your consideration.
But I just wanted to clarify that in the bid, they had the bond and insurance lumped together, but no portion of that is allocated to the cost of constructing the fluoridation system.
No, their bond and insurance would be an umbrella for the entire project. It wasn't allocated specifically for any fluoridation.
Does that answer your question, Director Garcia?
He said that there's none required by us for that. There'll be 2 projects, 2 contracts, and the fluoridation contract does not require any insurance or any bond.
It was a blanket bond and insurance coverage for the entire project. Depends on what you all do with the next item.
But if it's it just seemed like that would need to have a portion of that cost allocated to it.
It was a blanket. If you look at the other bidders, they had, part of their bond and insurance was merged with the mobilization and demobilization.
Right.
Theirs was $200,000. One was $100,000. One was $75,000. Another one was $150,000. Another was $132,000 for one bidder and $140,000 for the last.
Right.
So I can't tell you.
They
how-
lumped it all together.
Yes, they did.
If we were doing 2 contracts, that was why I asked.
If we do 2 contracts, does that mean that on the second contract, we are short the insurance and the bond?
That's what I'm asking.
Depends on whether or not you all, you're talking about a next item. If you all approve the next item, that's going to ultimately be part of the bid.
But it's 2 separate contracts. I just if we're getting the grant,
You don't have a contract before.
if we approve one,
You don't have
okay.
that up for consideration right now. You have a bid award up
yes.
for consideration.
But it would become a contract.
I haven't seen that contract yet.
Okay, so
because
we
there
could
isn't
ask
one.
for it.
Well, it
Okay.
does, it does affect the price of the second issue
And the first, if it deducted from it.
and the first. And I guess the only way to reconcile that is to amend the motion to take a pro rata share of the project based on the dollars for the fluoridation system compared to the total, and remove that so we in fact can have insurance, because we would insist on that anyway, correct?
Yes.
Is there an amendment to the motion?
Lance, did we get a motion and a second to adopt?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion second.
Well, I would so move. To amend.
To amend to provide for a pro rata allocation of bond and insurance.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I seconded before. I'm so confused now.
No, there's
Karen,
Counsel, would you explain the differences?
Yeah, you have on the floor a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as read. There has now been an amendment to provide for a pro rata allocation of the bond and insurance requirement for the amount of the bid.
So splitting the whole thing in half?
It won't necessarily be in half, it'll be pro rata. The
Okay,
the
well,
entire.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
The amendment passes. Mayor, if you would continue on with the discussion on the motion on the floor as amended.
Okay, Mr. Carnahan?
Thank you. Our Upper Lake Hamilton water treatment plant has the authority to take 20 million gallons a day and treat it from the river, Lake Ouachita, upper river. But when we have a heavy rain event, there's so much turbidity from Glazy-Po Creek and I think Owl Creek that come into that area that instead of using 4 pumps at our intake, we have to slow the plant down and only use 1 pump. So we can only pump 6 million gallons a day through that 20 million gallon per day plant because the turbidity is so high, our flocculation basins can't separate it out and it clogs the filters. So that's why our water treatment plant staff and our Mr. Bundy, the utility department staff, requested that we do something to fix that. And so the proposal is to take 2 of our basins, basin 6 and 7, and add plate settlers to those so that they can handle the difference between 4.7 and 16 million gallons per day going through those 2 basins. So we can run, even though we're operating at a slower rate, we can filter that water out so that our filters we can settle it out so that our filters can handle it, and we can maintain more capacity through that plant. Because as you know, even though we're working on a new water treatment plant, we're still a few years away. So this Upper Lake Hamilton water treatment plant is basically our water source, period. And we're totally dependent upon it to operate. So we need to do this. You all provided a bond, 2014 bond initiative that set aside the money to pay for this. And we drew plans and had a bid opening with 8 bidders, which is excellent. We were very happy with 8 qualified bidders who submitted bids, and the low bid was Van Horn Construction Company, and their bid of $2,797,700 was about $100,000 less than the engineer's estimate. So we're happy about that. So we're pleased to come to you tonight and ask you to approve the award of this construction to Van Horn Construction Company. Our engineer, Christ Engineers, has reviewed all the bids, and they are familiar with Van Horn Construction Company. In fact, in the last few years, I'm seeing here about $25 million worth of water projects that Christ Engineers has worked with Van Horn Construction Company in successful completion of those projects. So they gave us a good recommendation on that company. So I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Carnahan?
Just, the Van Horn that was getting the low bid has not done work in Hot Springs, but these contracts you mentioned were in Arkansas. Did they include this type of work in that expansion with the basin improvements that will be included, that are included here?
I don't know for
It talked
sure,
about
but it's water
expansion.
treatment plant and intake work. I don't know for sure exactly what the process was on those other plants.
So that
but it's water treatment plant improvements. So, I'm sorry I can't be more specific.
But you're confident?
Well,
with
I'm
the engineer's
relying on Christ
recommendation?
Engineers, and I feel very strongly that they know what they're doing and that they've been working with this company and gave them a strong recommendation.
And they're an Arkansas company.
Yes. Russellville, Arkansas is their home base.
Mr. Carnahan, this project will improve the productivity, but will not expand the water, the total amount of water available, will it?
That's correct. And there are, main reason for that is that our agreement with Entergy Corporation is that we can only pump 20 million gallons a day of water out of Lake Hamilton. That's it. So we're making the plant more reliable, making it able to run closer to its design capacity under adverse conditions, but we can't produce any additional water above what we're permitted. First of all, the health department actually has permitted us to produce 23 million gallons a day, but Entergy only allows us to take 20 million gallons a day from the lake.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Gary, Brian made it clear that this is more of an acceptance of a bid and not a contract. I guess the contract will come later. When would you project that the work could begin on this project?
We need to move quickly. In order to do this, we have to drain 2 of our 7 basins and take them out of production. Actually, we're going to try to stagger it so that the water treatment plant staff now is asking us, please don't do that. Let's just do one at a time, because again, we're depending on that water treatment plant. But we have to take part of the plant out of production in order to go in and put this new equipment in those concrete basins. We're doing it now because traditionally this is the low water use time of the year. So this is a fall and winter project that we need to get these basins back online before next summer. So I hope you aren't thinking of delaying this. I would love to encourage you.
I just want a date when you project to begin.
Let me think a second. We did talk about that. We haven't had our pre-construction. Well, we haven't had the award. Then we'll have a pre-construction conference. But we would want to begin. We have to order equipment. That takes, Scott, is it 12 weeks, I think, to get equipment produced after you do the shop drawings and so on. Anyway, honestly, it's going to be December, January before we can do any significant work there. But we have to order equipment and a lot of things to get snowballing, and it has to be a very well coordinated and organized construction project, taking the plant offline, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of planning and strategy that we have to do also. It's a tight schedule. Let me just sum it up by saying this is
I understand there's a lot
of
of
tight schedule.
Preliminary work before you can start actually doing the work on site.
Exactly.
Director
Part
Jones?
does weather play in it?
I'm sorry, what does what?
Part does the weather play in it?
The weather?
Yes, 3 months.
The weather's not going, the weather will play some in a thunderstorm or something we can't work, but very little concrete pouring. There is some, but not a lot. So weather is not a big factor here.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Carnahan? We have one person signed up. Thank you, Mr. Carnahan.
Okay, thank you all.
We have one person signed up to speak against the issue. Mr. Pritchett, are you wanting to speak against this one or the other part of this issue?
I wanted to speak to both sides of it, so
Okay.
I'll speak briefly on this one. I really applaud the decision of what we're doing, and Mr. Carnahan's plan I certainly support in light of all of our water problems, in light of the fact that we're working on the DeGray project, but and we're still waiting for the Corps of Engineers in the fourth quarter next year for approval to get water. But I certainly applaud this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Approved.
Okay, motion is approved. We move on to, I think, it's probably Resolution 14200B. Is that what you're doing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Resolution R14-200B, resolution awarding a bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc. for the Washita Water Treatment Plant Improvements Project, fluoridation system, whereas competitive bids for certain goods and services have been received and evaluated in accordance with ordinance number 5387, and that whereas city staff has evaluated all bids received and recommends award of the bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors, City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to award a bid to Van Horn Construction, Inc. for the Washita Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project, fluoridation system, in the amount of $250,000, together with applicable bonds and insurance. Provided further, the city manager is authorized to act on behalf of the city in the administration of the awarded bid. Section 2, funding will be provided through a reimbursement from Delta Dena Foundation, not to exceed $347,880. That concludes your reading. You can now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion if needed.
I'm impressed. You rewrote that whole thing during the discussion. I would entertain a motion
So moved.
to adopt the resolution. And a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Mr. Carnahan.
Yes, sir. Let me just say that about 2 months ago or less, Mr. Bundy, our new utilities director, got a letter from the chief engineer and head of the engineering division of the Department of Health saying, why haven't you implemented the plan to put fluoridation in your water treatment plant? I need a report on that. I need to know where you are. And so we had to reply. We replied and said, we're taking bids on a construction project. And he sent me back a note right away saying, good news, keep going. That reminded me that when Richard Penn was a utilities director a year and a half or so ago, we had a same letter, same request, where are you on implementing the fluoridation? And you may recall that that the head of the engineering division came to this board a couple of years ago and explained to you, because we asked, the city board asked that would have him come here and explain why do we have to do this and do we really have to do this. And he came and explained that to the board and was very, I remember one of the board members gave him quite a bit of grief that night, but he was very firm in his stance that this is a state law and you have to do it. And so from a staff point of view, we work with the health department. And so they've made it very clear to us, you need, make this happen. So we applied, with your approval, we applied for the grant with Delta Dental, and they awarded the city the full amount that we requested. And so it's more than enough money. Now that we have the bids, we can say that it's more than enough money to pay for the entire installation. So anyway, so we would ask that you award that portion of the bid also.
Okay, Mr. Carnahan, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Carnahan?
Not sure I have a question. Well, maybe I could ask a question too. When Gary, if this were approved tonight, when would we see some activity out there relating to this aspect of?
This would be later. This would be one of the last things, honestly, that we do. We're going to focus on getting those basins rebuilt and online. And this all is up the very headworks of the plant, and it's kind of an auxiliary thing that we add in the chemical building. So I would say next spring.
Okay, thank you. One of the thoughts I had on this is that, this has had a lot of discussion with the citizens of Hot Springs, and many of our actions that we take, we try to ensure that we have a full complement of directors here, and we're missing one tonight. But more than that, laws come and go, and I understand under the current state rules, we have to implement this. And I apologize. Like I said, I was at Saratoga Springs on that revitalization trip when we had the last agenda meeting. I probably could have had that answered prior to this had I been there. But do we know, can we assess our legislative delegation and see if there's any possibility that this is going to be reversed at the next legislative session? I got to have assurance that this is not going to be reversed before we expend resources and commit to this project. Under current law, I understand, I have it here, that we have to comply. And I'm willing, if we have to comply, we have to comply. But I'd hate to move forward and then find this next legislative session reverse a previous directive.
It's my understanding, and I don't know the answer to that. I do know that at the last legislative session, this was actually passed 2 sessions ago. So at the last legislative session, it's my understanding that a motion was proposed to eliminate this law, reverse it, and it never got out of committee, never came up for a vote.
Well, we also have an election that we're in right now, and a lot of players may be changing, and
that's true.
And we may not know. And the fact that you said this is at the end, this is a springtime thing,
right,
tells me that we have some time here. Now, I understand that we might have some issues with the contract and might have to rework some things, but if it's going to be the law of the land, we will comply. We have to comply. But I just want assurance that that's still going to be the law of the land.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know whether I was wanting to table this till November 18th, and that might give us some clarity as it relates to the current office holders. It won't give us clarity to any thought process of the new office holders. But I would like to see this tabled at least till November 18th.
Well, there's always the chance that whoever is in office could make the change. I mean, how far out do you want to do that?
No, I think we need to look at it November 18th, and the guidance from the staff would be beyond that. Gary had indicated that this wouldn't be till springtime, so I think even the preliminary work on this wouldn't be as rushed as the big project would be. But no, I wouldn't look to this for continued delay, because we also have the issue with the bonding, and we need to keep these as tight as we can if we're required to do it.
Gary, how long could this be delayed before a drop-dead time that said we have to have a decision so we aren't messing up the construction schedule?
I don't know, but we could, as far as just the timing of the project, we could wait a while. I could find out more exactly, but it's not something we're going to do in the next couple of months at all.
By a while, is it long enough to engage the new legislature to see if there is going to be a change in the law of the land? I'm not trying to delay it either, but we are so close in time frame. I too would hate to spend the money and then find that everything has changed.
Right. Of course, it's, again, and I know you know that it's a statewide measure. So engaging the legislature to find out their pulse on this, I don't know how difficult that would be.
I mean, there's been some pretty strong feelings, and somebody like Representative Cozart and Senator Clark could make some introductions, and we find out where they go from there. The community was advised to contact their legislators the last time that I heard this discussion, and I really haven't heard one thing since that time. So I was a little surprised when you said it was brought up at the legislature as a proposal, but it never got anywhere. So your motion is to what, Mr. McCabe?
Just table and place it on the November 18th. And in the interim, to assess our delegation and see if there's any movement within the state legislature for this upcoming legislative session.
Okay.
To reverse direction.
Second.
Listen to the concert first.
Whitney likes to sing sometime.
Gotta love Whitney Houston being here with us tonight.
There is a motion.
All right.
There is a motion to table and a second. There was a second.
Over
Yes.
here, we had,
Yeah,
Oh, I
Karen.
beg your pardon. And so would you call the roll?
Could I ask a
Yes.
question first? For our city attorney, in the laying that legally, since it's just a few weeks, wouldn't be any problem with his letter from the health department, would it?
I don't think it would present a problem with the health department. We may need to have an addendum at some point to the contract if the contract comes to us before then.
Okay.
Okay, and everybody's heard the motion and the second to table this until November 18th. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
No.
McCabe,
aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
passes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 14201. Council, would you read the motion or the resolution, please?
Resolution R-14201, a resolution approving an increase in premiums for employee medical and dental coverage. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Could I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Doretha?
Thank you.
Discussion?
The item before you tonight is request approval to increase our health insurance premiums by 3% over the next 5 years for our self-insured employee wellness fund. I'm going to do the initial presentation, but also tonight we have Minnie Lennox here, who is our HR director. Her office actually administers the program. We also have Tim Hyde here. He's with HealthScope Benefits, and they are our third-party administrator for this fund. The reason that we're bringing this to you now as opposed to a part of our budget process is that if we increase these premiums, then we will need to provide advance notice to COBRA participants as well as dependents participants. And those need to be provided, that notice needs to be provided before December, as that's when those premiums are paid, if this is going to be effective January the 1st. City of Hot Springs has had self-insured health care for its employees for several years, and this has served the city well, and we've been able to contain our health care costs. As is normal with a self-insured plan, you have years of feast and years of famine. This last year has been a very challenging year for us, and at the end of September, we've lost $710,000 and had to borrow about $400,000 from other funds. This has been an extremely abnormal year. We all know that health costs are increasing as a whole, but if you just look at our claims and the number of folks that have gone over what where the insurance cumulative claim exceeded 50% of the specified deductible. I provided a schedule of those claims, and like for the last 5 years, starting in 2010, we had 5, 2011 we had 5, 2012 we had 2, 2013 we had 5, and 2014 at the current time we have 19 of those. So obviously, it's a very abnormal year. We've met together, several of us that are working on this project. We've also met with HealthScope, and we felt like that we need to put an increase in place. We'd like to go ahead and put a schedule of increases in place, as this helps us when we come together every year to do the budget process, that these scheduled increases are already on the table and help us to plan. Right now, the proposal is 3% over the next 5 years. I can't stand up here and tell you that, yes, that's going to solve the problem indefinitely, because none of us can project what's going to happen with all the legislation that's going on, as well as our history here. So we might have to we will have to evaluate that as we go along, but we feel like that this is a good start. Fiscal impact to the city budget's about $86,000, with the general fund being about $50,000. And then that amount would increase 3% incrementally every year. As you know, the city currently pays 100% of the employees' premiums. This decision can be made independently of that. If you want to come back and visit that discussion during the budget, you can certainly do that. But this time, we feel like that it's important that we go ahead and make these changes. Currently, the premiums are $4,680 a year. We increased them in 2011. That's the last time we increased them. So I think it's prudent this time that we make another increase. We'd be glad to answer any questions, or like I said, we've got a couple other resources here that might be better qualified on some of your questions.
I would like to note that out of the last 12 years, you had a positive surplus in 7 of the 12 years, and the claims that really take you right over the top this year are 19 claims that are real anomalies, which is more than double anything else we've experienced in the last 12 years. So I was initially concerned about just a 3% because I felt like we were digging a bigger hole for the city, but now that I'm looking at it, I see that that really is not the case.
Right.
Now, does the board have the opportunity to change that rate in subsequent years if we see there is a problem?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Is this combined medical and dental, or just medical, or?
Yes, it is medical and dental.
So the total amount's going to be going up by 3%.
Right.
Thank you.
Director McCabe?
You know, without getting into any HIPAA issues, of the 19 that have resulted in the larger claim history, are those ongoing claims at this time, and are there any employees that have been lasered in our health plan?
Yeah. I'll let Minnie answer that, if you would, Minnie.
Yes, we currently have 2 that'll be lasered in our plan.
And what would that limit be?
I think we defer to Mr. Hyde on that one.
I mean, I'm going back to Randy's comment about the 3% increase.
For the benefit of the public, can you define lasered?
Well, when an employee is lasered, they're kind of capped, and the plan absorbs more risk than what a general employee within the plan would realize.
Correct, and more specifically to the city policy, there's a $75,000 specific deductible per employee. I'm sorry, $85,000 specific deductible per employee. And a laser just means that deductible could be increased for a particular patient. We do believe that there are going to be 2, but the policy is actually still in medical underwriting as of today. They needed data through September, which was provided this week. And so there's still kind of a negotiation going on. But we do anticipate there being 2 lasers, but I don't have the specifics around that yet.
My purpose in making these statements is solely to go back to Randy's comments about the 3% that we're budgeting may not be sufficient. We'll have to watch that
Yes, we will
closely.
watch it. Yes, we'll watch it closely. But this gives us a starting point. So.
Yeah, can we maybe have maybe the staff can work on a policy issue? You indicated that we drew a sizable amount of money from the general fund in order to make these payments. You know, if we're getting to where we don't have sufficient funding, can you work up a policy statement to come back to us at an earlier time to address that, so we don't go maybe, I know we're taking from one pocket into another.
Right.
But, you know, maybe we could have better clarity on that
right.
at an earlier time.
I can bring back a policy. What we do right now is I look at the number of participants in the major funds, and there's about water, wastewater, sanitation, and then general fund, of course, which is police, fire, majority of the people. And we do we actually do do-tos, do-froms for that money. And you hope when you first start that it's going to be a temporary thing, but obviously this has gone on a little bit longer than what we wanted it to. But I think under policy, what we would do is put in, a time frame, if that's what you're looking for, to say that, okay, this is the second month we've gone over, we need to bring it to the board for direction.
Yeah, I would like something like that because it would certainly help us and at least be aware of how we're doing.
Right. Okay.
But what I understood you to say, sir, is that all employees have an $85,000 specific deductible, which means that the plan is responsible for the first $85,000. The 2 employees that are being lasered are going to have a deductible well beyond that.
It's unknown what the dollars will be, but just to clarify, it's all members, so it includes dependents as well. They each
Right.
have an individual $85,000 deductible,
Right.
not just employees. But that's correct.
I'd like to go back to Director McCabe's comments about bringing back information. I would hope that the information brought back is for informational purposes and not board action, because we struggled through this during the budget process last year where we said within the general fund, the city manager is free to move funds between departments other than reducing the safety departments like fire and police. And for this year, for the first time, we have gotten away from any extraordinary expenditures, changing the budget, which means we don't have the budget. So for the purposes of bringing information, I can support that. For asking us to intervene in the management by doing anything with those funds, I'm wondering
I
where you want to go with
I might have to rethink that because, they're asking for permission to increase it by 3%. So if they, via that policy, then why are we here? Why are they here with this issue?
They're asking for permission to raise the rates of the employees. They do that every year at
No,
budget
the
time.
employees, no, they're actually shifting money now.
I understand that.
So why are they asking if if they're not required?
Because she said they have to get notice out because more are covered than just employees.
For the COBRA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Independence.
Right.
And this is effective in 2015 as opposed to now.
Okay. Where are we? We have a motion and a second. I don't have anybody to speak against the issue. Would you call for the question? Or I'm calling for the question.
Yes. Clark,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
approved.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is board commentary. This is open for board comments, board of directors comments. Director Garcia.
Yes, thank you. Since our last board meeting, I received several thank yous from visitors and citizens that I wanted to pass along for our Hot Springs Police Department, for employees from the street department and maintenance department, as well as to Mr. Bill Burrow for his assistance with some noise issues that some residents were experiencing and that have been addressed due to some equipment and a lot of clanging that was going on and some things that they did to address that with some of our big equipment. And so I'm very passing that along from citizens and visitors to the city that are very appreciative and have noticed this among our employees, and thank you.
Thank you, Director. Anybody else have a comment?
I do.
Davidson?
We had a Park Avenue Community Association meeting last night, and thank Director McCabe for coming, and another candidate. Max Astilli brought us up to date on the testing for the warning system, and there was a active discussion with local residents about it. But some comments were made about thanking the city for so many police showing up at our National Night Out on Park Avenue. Also, the Fire Chief, Ed Davis, spoke and committed that that fire station will remain there, but at some point we hope to have a newer building, a little more sizable and updated building, because that is the densest collection of frame dwellings probably in the city. And routes in and out can't be, you can't get there in less than, I think he said he had timed it from the central fire station, it's 3.5 minutes to get, considering that you don't have a downtown full of motorcycles or anything else going on. So, but we had a really good turnout. It was a lengthy meeting, and we covered lots of issues about safety and traffic and highway and CDBG, and there's going to be a little delay on some of the sidewalks, and that has to do with all the testing and environmental issues that go with it. But I just want to say we had a lot of people thank all of our city employees that have been so involved, Michelle Sestilli, Max Sestilli, the fire chief, and it was a real positive event.
That's great. That's great. Anybody else have comments? Okay, immediately following this meeting, we are going to be open to public commentary for speakers of up to 3 minutes. We do have somebody signed up, so at this time what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. So moved.
Second?
Second.
I didn't know if that was a repeat, so you seconded it too, or what?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes,
aye. Opposed, same sign. We will start the public commentary in a few moments. Thank you all for coming. Lance, would you see if we get the mics back on, please?
What did that smile?
There they are. Okay,
In the day,
we're going to now open this to public commentary. First, the speaker that signed up tonight is Mr. Joseph Carver. Mr. Carver? Would you please identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Joseph Carver, and I thank you for having me here and letting me speak to you tonight.
Where do you live, Mr. Carver?
209 Davidson, Hot Springs, Arkansas, 71901, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here tonight to speak about the problems with child support. I'm a single parent and have been for over 10 years. I have 2 children that are biologically mine that I got sole custody of during the divorce. And then I adopted 2 others afterwards that DHS took away from my ex-wife. As of right now, she owes $18,000 in child support. We have been to court 4 times, fixing to go to court a 5th time. And at $10,000, it's already a felony. And then it goes on, it keeps rising in felonies, B, C, D, whatever. And anyway, I called Little Rock, talked to the main man over at OCSE, and right now we have $760 million that is owed to the state in child support and to parents in child support. And that $760 million that's owed to people, parents, single parents like myself, would benefit the community if the people would pay. Number one, it would stop the negative balance of $760 million, and it gives the single parents more money to put back into the community. It also stops people from thinking it's not a big deal and to be responsible for their children. And number 4, it's simply the right thing to do. These laws have been neglected or one-sided for a long time and should be a priority, I believe. I keep saying I'm sorry. I'm a veteran, and I've served my country. I've been in war, combat. I have a criminal justice degree. I have Homeland Security degree. I did that at the age of 40. I graduated top honors Phi Theta Kappa. I've been with the governor. I know I've got recommendations from a lot of people. I've been a member of Chamber of Commerce since 2003. Used to own my own business here in Hot Springs. I brought in over $20 million into the city. I donate to Historical Society. And what I have a problem with is that every time this comes up to where I know Sue by name now, down at the Sheriff's Department. I go in there and talk to her. It's an ongoing thing, okay? They're letting people just sign in and out now on this child support. They don't even go to jail. Just come sign their name and they get to go home. Used to be they had to pay at least $1,500, $2,500. I'm not even doing that anymore because they're saving, they say they don't have room in the prisons. And it's really hurting the community. And it drives some single parents to do the wrong thing. Now me, I work 18 to 20 hours a day. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem when my ex-wife works a block from the Sheriff's Department at a bar as a bartender, lives 2 blocks off Central Avenue, and it has been 4 months that she's had a warrant out for her arrest, has a suspended license, has 2 new cars, and no one does anything about it. And that is my problem. Now, when I was in college, I was told that one man cannot change things. But when I was in the military, I lived by one thing that I was taught. War teaches you one thing. You as one man can change things. And for a good man to do nothing is a crime. And so that's why I stand before you today. And I just hope that I've reached out to as many people as I can to get something done. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. It would benefit this community. And I hate to see it become a norm in our society. I really do. You know, I have to work so hard. My 19-year-old adopted daughter still lives with me and goes to college. I drive her back and forth every day. I got her in college. I pay for that. I know I still have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old at home. And those are the worst years. I promise you. That's like when they know everything, okay? But I've talked to a lot of my elders that I truly respect in the community that I've known over the years, since '97. And I think there's something that can be done about this. Okay. And for me to hear that the prisons are overcrowded and this is not a priority does not sit well with me. Does okay. not. And when you owe me $18,000, and she only has to pay for the biological children, not the children I adopted. She doesn't have to pay child support on those. And I did not get paid by the state for that because I adopted them. I did not do foster care. You know.
Okay, Mr. Carver, your 3 minutes are up. I apologize. I'm sorry for your plight, but thank you for your comments. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, board.
Okay.
Thank you.
There being no other speakers signed up. All right, good.
I'm not signed, but I'll speak if I